They felt a little bit confused at first. Why are we talking about this in math class? And I liked it, and I loved it when they asked that, because then we could talk about other examples, like we could talk about fencing a dog pen, or something like that, if that would be more exciting. But but these are the types of things that are going on in the world around us, that are important for us to think about. And they got it. I felt like they got the message and appreciated it.
Through the questioning, it was forcing the kids to actually delve deeper into the math about it. Because then I could say, well, what's the math in here? And they'd be like, well, where is the math in here? The element of curiosity, trying to question their own selves. And particularly with our second project, where we were asking, is there a connection between literacy and lifespan? And you had kids that at the beginning of the lesson were like, no way, there shouldn't be a connection in that. And then through actually working through the mathematics and then the discourse that came from the other students, are like, oh, wait a second, maybe that makes sense. And just the actual process of it, of kind of butting heads and then being like, oh, okay.
Overwhelmingly, I think the response was, this is not only interesting for us to be looking at now, but this is something that's going to stick with me. And I'm glad that I have learned about this, because I have now a reference to consider kind of these issues more broadly, with race in America, or how kind of schools have been used in various ways, to how geography in schools and race and identity all combine in interesting ways. The conversations that we had, plus the actual tasks of the assignments, brought up new curiosities for students.
To see what the students got out of it made me feel like I wish I could go back 15 years and start doing this more often. Hearing one student say, like, I didn't realize that math was like the gateway to my future. And the connections that they were able to make, from math to not only academic subjects, but things that are true to them and their interests, was just, I had never experienced that before.
I felt like when we first started, it was a little weird, because everybody was kind of like, where is this going? Where are we going with this? Reading this article about segregation in the 1960s, like what is this gonna do for us in math? But then as it went on, kids definitely got a lot more interested, and it really showed them how math can relate, and like Audrey said, they definitely got a lot more engaged.
I can't believe we got so far with integration and all this stuff, and now schools are wanting to create borderlines where it's indirectly segregating schools mostly. And so seeing that and seeing wow, we want more diversity in these schools, and we want to use math to fix this, was just kind of like a whole class agreement where we were like, yeah, let's do something about it. Let's talk to these panelists. Let's use our math and these graphs that we were given and all this data that we have right here, and let's actually use it for something that's real and not Betty makes 12 cookies. Because in those books you can't go change diversity in schools with 12 cookies from a fictional character.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with that. Whereas with this whole class, everyone can have an idea and everyone can share it and go out and actually do something. And the panelists were saying that too. They were like, if you really feel like this, you need to do something about it. If you really want to make a change, then make a change, because you have all this stuff. You have all this information from your teachers right here in front of you, and you can use it for anything you want.
I haven't ever really had a big project like this that is so focused around real world issues. Sure, maybe there have been a little that's like, oh, this is about presidency or the government or whatever, but we haven't had a full-on project that's exploring a lot of different issues and social justice things. People did projects on food and people in poverty and unemployment and things like that, and other really important topics that we usually don't discuss as much in especially math classes. In math classes, that's never a thing that we do is talk about politics, but this project like combined math and real world issues just so we could express that and be able to see it in a more like material way.
Yeah, we also got to pick our own topic.
Yeah.
And I
which
feel
was
like that
nice.
was probably the kind of one of the best parts about this project.
Yeah.
Because we got to express ourselves where you can't during tests. It's just a standardized test. You do it every student, and then if you don't describe something right or you don't get the right answer, then it's wrong. But like getting to personalize your own project, I think that's something that's really great about this.
Also, the conversations in math were different. Like, in regular class, we'd finish the problem as quickly as possible and then talk about a little bit. And if we all had the same answer, we'd just talk about something else, like what we were doing this weekend or some other random thing. But in this one, since we were all talking about different things, then we got to inform each other about the topics rather than knowing what each person was doing.
Well, a lot of the times there's an excuse of kids who say, oh, well, I'm never going to use this math in real life. I'm never going to use this. But when you have to do a project on something in the real world, it's something that actually exists and a problem that's going on. So I think that it's a big benefit because you get to learn something new about your community and world.
When I walk into math, like on a normal day, it would just be learning a new chapter. But getting to work on something that I'm interested in and seeing it like when I'm done, and I think that in a way it might be more like pleasing than seeing like 100% on a test, because you just see all your work that you've put into it.
It makes me think that there should be, like, the textbooks should be written differently, because I think by 8th and 7th grade or just anywhere in middle school, we're beyond how many cupcakes can, I don't know, John make in comparison to Jim or something like that. I think it's time that we start learning about more serious subjects like these.
What is this project, and what math concepts are you guys using for the project?
There's quite a few. One of them is we can do the volume surface area of cylinders. That's a standard that we look at, but mainly it's for how does the PSI that we put into the pressure chamber and the height of the rocket correlate? And then we can graph that. We can do scatter plots, 8th grade standards, functions, and then we can do lines of best fit, slope. It actually does have because it starts off the ground, it not only has a slope, it has a y-intercept. So all those things go into calculations, and then we use those calculations in the equations we write to predict heights at different PSIs or predict PSIs to get to certain heights. Can I get a countdown? 3, 2, 1.
Woo, that's awesome.
Yeah, I went out of style. Don't catch it. The best scenario is when the math is secondary, when the math is necessary for what they really want. And then you've got them because it's a necessary part of getting the outcome that I want. And so I completely am committed to finding out how to do this math so that I can complete this project. That's when you got them. And it takes a while. It takes some trial and error. You know, we say that to our kids all the time. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try something, doesn't work out. Doesn't mean you have to abandon it. Same thing's going to go with this rocket project. There's a lot of avenues we could do. Like what's your thoughts? What's the experiment? How do we develop this into something we can test? And then they start to understand that math then is the quantification of our lives. That's really what math boils down to. And it allows us to communicate and test and theorize. And that's what math needs to be for them. Not a subject that's in a box that gets touched on 51 minutes a day and then forgotten. It's how we communicate. It's how we explore the world around us and then communicate our explorations with other people and test ideas.
In this class, and we've had bell ringers on this, we were told PSI, and most people were like, what's PSI? They didn't even know what that is. But we can use a formula to find if we add 14 PSI to this rocket and shoot it, how far it will go, where it'll land, and where its apex will be. And I've never done that in any other class, and I thought that was really cool because I've never done that. Like I've always done what's this, and I've only solved on a worksheet. And then in this class, I'm using it for a real world thing.
I think a lot of the time when we're learning math, it's just kind of like, oh, this is math, and I have to do this problem, and I have to do my homework, and it's not like something you want to do. Whereas with this, it didn't always feel like we were actually doing math. Like we knew it was math, and we knew it's a math class, but we were talking so much about this other subject that we kind of forgot that we were doing math during the process of it. So it was kind of a really cool and good way to do math without feeling the obligation and the like being annoyed at doing it, and just kind of like liking to do it. Yeah, I think the whole class was more just like energetic in a good way. They were more like, everyone was more on task and sharing their thoughts more openly, and were willing to discuss things with kids. Like even if the teacher wasn't near them, they were like, oh, what did you think about this? Because they actually wanted to know other people's opinions and compare their results and their questions and answers. And again, when we did the presentation for the panelists last week, kids were like paying attention, and like I saw a lot of kids going like and listening to their responses and like actually really getting into it. Whereas if that panel had been about algebra, I don't think many kids would be paying attention. I think kids would just be like, oh, they're talking about math.
I think it's cool that we each get to evaluate different things, and then in that, like, different topics, and then in that topic we can relate back, in evaluating it, we can relate back to it, which I think shows more depth than Miss Jensen giving us a topic that we don't really know about in a test.
People say, you need to learn this because you are going to use math in your life, like this math in your life. Well, this was actually a really good example of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of students, I've said this multiple times, when are we ever going to use this?
Yeah,
well,
I said that. Yeah.
We've
I think
actually
everyone has.
used it. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
By doing like the same kind of math format over and over again for each chapter, it can get like boring, but by doing something different and unique, it can spark your interest more and maybe find something you like about math.
I feel like you're always going to have that one kid in your class who just doesn't want to do anything at all, but like when I'm in Mr. Mercer's class, all of us are just like really engaged. Like there's not that one person who just wants to sit out and not do anything. We're all actually like having fun doing what we're doing, and it's really engaging when you have like an experience from life that connects you with the math, and it just makes a lot more sense to me.
When kids are like, they're working on a problem and they're doing the math, they're doing some math, they have the pencil, they aren't really doing the math. They're doing the problem, but they aren't thinking about it, and they're talking to people. They're like, I got 27, what'd you get? Yeah, that's cool. What'd you do last night? And so, but with this, I saw people that were like, oh, what'd you get? Oh, I got 27. That's really interesting, because then it goes down and it goes up here, and I think that it should probably go up here because it's that and it's cool and it's math. So, yeah.